It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Thursday, September the 21st. Good morning. Man, oh man, sometimes I forget to set my alarm. Well, actually, only once this whole year. It was last night.
Oh.
Woke up in a flurry of activity way later than I like to be awake, but I'm here now, and oh man, nothing gets you wide awake more than not being wide awake when you're supposed to be.
It's a slap in the face.
Oh, that sickening feeling when you wake up. I've woken up before and looked at the clock just as the show was starting at like 6:01. And that panic, you're having a raging panic for about a microsecond, maybe a bit longer than that, and then you realize, wait, it's just, I'm not going to get fired. It's just radio. I'm late. It's okay. Mm-hmm. But it takes you like 3 days to shake that feeling.
Oh, I would, if I woke up and saw a 6, I'd be out of my mind. I would literally, and I'm very close to the station, and it would still panic me. Yeah. In fact, I was so nervous when I first got to town at the beginning of the year that I would oversleep, or I'd miss an alarm, or that my phone would die because I forgot to plug it in. But I was thinking about, okay, well, what happens? What if I am late? What if someone has to get a hold of me? Because when I go to bed at night, I turn the Do Not Disturb on. So, no calls are coming through except for my favorites. That's my wife and my 2 kids. I figure, well, they can call me and wake me up. Nobody else can. And then I figured, well, I should probably put all y'all on to my favorites, so you guys can call if I'm not here. Show's about to start. And then I realized, no. Yeah. I'll just put Tony in. I don't trust the other 2.
Yeah. I understand that completely.
Yeah, Tony's not going to play a prank on me.
What?
You guys? No.
Who are you talking about? Tony Lee?
I know. I've learned the error of my ways. No, but that was my point. When I first started, I was like, Tony would never call me. Tony would never call me at 4 and go, it's 6 o'clock. Where are you?
I have to say, I'm a little hurt.
I didn't know you that. I'm just now realizing I've had Tony as one of my favorites all this time. I have to make it's clearly a tactical error on my part.
Or make it a double favorite. That's where the problem
That's always where the problems come in.
Hey, the unique thing about being late for a radio show, I always found, and this happened to me several times in my radio career, is driving in and listening. Because you always wonder, are they pissed at me as the boss? But now you get to drive in and listen to the show as you're coming in. That kind of twists the knife a little bit on you when you're coming in. And
that kind of gives me a Friday plan. Then I think let's just go ahead and plan on that. I'll see you guys about 6:29 tomorrow.
All right,
that'll be great. I'll just drive around. I'll just be doing laps around the building in the car, listening. Man, the compression's amazing. These guys sound way better on the radio than they do in person. Today on the show, Steve Gonsalves is joining us, the star of Ghost Hunters, author of A Life with Ghosts. Yes, we will be discussing the paranormal on the show today. That's at 9 o'clock, I believe. At 8:30, Sam Ekstrom's going to talk Vikings with us. The Vikings just picked up Cam Akers from the Rams, a running back coming to town now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, when I saw a trade for Rams, my brain immediately went, Matthew Stafford? No, okay. But so we'll see what that means, if that's something to get excited about. But in the meantime, this isn't really paranormal. This is just flat out otherworldly, possibly. We have an update from Mexico. We remember, of course, the non-human beings that were displayed in Mexico last week. Sure. These guys came out and they said, we've had these 2 bodies for a while. Check this out. Mexican doctors have found, quote, no evidence of any assembly or manipulation of the skulls of the so-called non-human beings. And they've checked out these remains, and they say they seemingly have proven the remains were not human-made. That's what they're willing to say. These are not fake. These were not created by humans, is what I'm getting at.
You mean like chimps or something?
Yeah, they conducted a number of tests on the 2 specimens. The entire thing was live streamed. The director of the Health Sciences Research Institute in the Secretary of the Mexican Navy's office. What a hell of a title that
every
is.
Every time you throw Mexican in there, you had me. And then you just work in the word Mexican. It's kind of like working in Canadian, okay.
What you don't trust the scientists down there? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying. It seems a little shaky, right?
You'd rather see these guys up in, let's see, like somewhere out in the Silicon Valley or somewhere. Get them to MIT, Harvard. I see what you're saying.
Mexico. That's where people go for, butt implants in the garage.
Yeah, but that's not what the Mexicans go there for. I'm willing to give the Mexican science community the benefit of the doubt. However, but until this, because this just makes me go, wait, you got to be kidding me. me. The team found that one of these things was, quote, alive, intact, was biological, and was in gestation. I can affirm that these bodies have no relation to human beings.
Okay.
That said, well, what in the hell are they?
Right.
How is it so obvious? Do I have to say it? It's clearly chupacabras. We finally found them.
No, have you seen pictures?
Yeah.
I mean, they're little, like, humanoid-looking things.
They look like little tiny humanoid.
The controversy is that somebody had, like, made it out of paper mache or cardboard and crafted it out of sand. So this is a big deal, so that they're not fake craft projects.
It is.
There's something.
I always do the same thing when I see an outrageous story, or I don't want to say outrageous story, an unbelievable story.
Mm-hmm.
You always Google because you want to corroborate. Let me find 3 other news sources. I'm only finding the New York Post covering this so far.
Yeah, right,
but
of course.
We'll dig deeper, but I'm looking at it, staring right at the photograph right now. Apparently, its entire body is... This is just fossilized or mummified? Is that the
Looks
deal?
like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I like I said before, I hope this is it. Definitive proof. We've got aliens. Let's put a period on that and move on. What else have we got? Atlantis? Let's get to that.
I do think there's an American physics professor who had a quote that I was like, yeah, thank you. I'm glad someone said this. He said it's very unlikely that an intelligent species that evolved on another planet would look like us at all. He's like, I mean, these kind of look humanoid. There's a similarity there. You can see the same kind of shape, basically. They get the arms, the legs, the head, and he goes, I just can't imagine that would be the case. That checks out to me.
Mm.
I would expect it to look like something we can't even imagine in our own minds.
Well, they have 3 fingers. So that's a little odd.
Oh, man.
Okay, well, that's enough to grab those Reese's Pieces off the floor.
You can do a shot with 3 fingers.
What's that?
You can do a shot with 3 fingers.
You can do it. Yes, you certainly can. Okay, one other thing I want to get on before we got to get out of here. And this, I just saw this story. I just, without even really knowing what I'm getting into, I just want to get your thoughts. Emergency call went out in the Grand Canyon over the weekend. A few days ago, a backpacker, a guy was hiking and he fell, and suffered a traumatic shoulder injury. He was literally unable to move. He's 63 years old. It took the Mojave County Sheriff's Office search and rescue team a few hours to get to him. When the rescue helicopter reached the location provided by the guy's Apple device, it was already dark. He was down, and the canyon walls were keeping it pitch black. It took hours to get this guy out. They finally did, and then the rescuers were like, hey, man, what are you doing out here all alone? And he said, oh, no, my 4 friends just kept going.
Oh, they left him?
It was a group of 5, and a guy fell. A 63-year-old man fell, and they were like, "No, we're here for, dude. We got 8 days, and we're only 4 days in. We're going to continue. Good luck."
I've been on. I remember going down to Fort Myers. We had the one person that tagged along that didn't want to drink,
right?
And then they just kept slowing us down. Finally, it was like, dude, we left him. We left him there at whatever hotel we were at. Yeah, sometimes you got to move on.
But in the Grand Canyon, I mean, in the middle of nowhere, when a guy's injured, not sober, but injured. See, you left the guy who wouldn't drink. They left the guy who couldn't move anymore. He was in such pain.
Yeah, I see the parallel.
How do you explain that too? We'll be back.
He said, his friend said, "Hey man, you'll be fine. They'll find you, but we gotta."
He's got an Apple Watch. He'll be fine.
He's got an Apple Watch. He'll be good. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
He's not very good at picking friends, and he's not very good at hiking either.
That, you know what? Thank you for that. Like,
Boy,
dude, you got in way over your head before you even stepped foot in that canyon. Taking a trip with these bozos, you should have known. You should, a little bit more discernment when it comes to vacationing together.
What would you do? How would you? I mean. Can you get collectively a group of people that many a-holes? I can see the one person going, just leave him. And everybody saying, Zepp, stop. We got to take him with us. We can't. You can't. I mean, just one. But you have a collective group of a-holes you went hiking with. All right.
Well, maybe he's an a-hole too. He just got hurt.
Maybe he's the a-hole.
You know, we always forget to think about that. Maybe they were all like walking away from him, laughing their ass like, yeah, finally got his comeuppance.
Right. Stroke of luck at the beginning of the vacation too.
All we need now is a rattlesnake, and this trip is going to be incredible.
Would a shoulder injury stop you from hiking?
I guess.
I mean, I'm closing in on 63. I just don't feel like a shoulder injury would stop me from walking.
Well, it could have been. I mean, again, I don't have all the details. Could have been an ankle twist that led to falling on the shoulder.
Okay, all right.
The shoulder was the main concern.
You're a nice guy. You're giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I'm trying, but you know what? I think I'm just gonna land on this. The guy's clearly a prick, and he got what he deserves.
Let's pile on.
There it is.
Speaking of, let's move along to Mike Evans' Hollywood Report here.
Speaking of.
Come on now, it's 6:30. Hang tight, please.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Thursday, September the 21st. Good morning. It is time to look to the west, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Mike Evans Hollywood Report. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, as always, brought to you by Marcus Theaters. Don't forget, Tuesday is their special 6-day Tuesday for any movie you want to see, from the time they open the doors to the time they close the doors. And the weekend's almost here, and I'm thinking there's some good movies that are playing that are family movies. Hey, while Dad's watching the football games, take the kids to a movie at Marcus Theaters. It'd be smart.
Nice plan.
It's now a 50-50 chance that the Hollywood strike could end by the weekend.
Whoa.
There was a big break supposedly last night. When I find out more, I'll let you know, but that's the latest scoop.
That would be great.
It would be. Love Nuggets. Sources who should know say that Taylor Swift and Kansas City Chief tight end Travis Kelce are dating. Now, they've never been seen together, actually, but his brother and her friends say it's on like Donkey Kong. Now, the Chicago Bears play the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City Sunday. Be interesting if Taylor Swift showed up at the game. What do you think? It would be
very interesting.
Would be.
She will have a large security detail, I would imagine, surrounding her everywhere she goes.
For the record, Taylor's best girlfriend is Blake Lively, and they quietly, secretly often go to church together. There you go. A little scoop there for you.
What? That's the only place they can get away from everybody and have a chat about, well, I don't know.
I find it hard to believe that they could get around, but
I thought her best friend was Lena Dunham, and then I thought it was Lorde, and then I thought it was there's always a best friend. She was just out with the Game of Thrones chick for a few days, helping her get over that Jonas breakup.
I know. Her and Blake have been around together a long time. They have places in Tennessee together.
I got a lot to learn.
Hey, from from that to the No Love department. So Britney Spears continues to blast her sister Lynn for going on Dancing with the Stars. I got more Dancing with the Stars in a minute. Nobody knows why. Seems just hateful and mean. And another Britney nugget: Oprah and 60 Minutes and other legitimate TV outlets have asked her to do a serious sit-down interview. Britney's response: absolutely not. Can you imagine the ratings or what that woman would say if they just opened the microphone live and she went on?
It's probably the first really grounded, reasonable decision she's made in a long time.
Yeah. One more odds and ends regarding Dancing with the Stars. What in the world was ABC and Dancing with the Stars thinking when they brought in former football player Adrian Peterson to be part of the cast this season? I mean, he was convicted of assaulting his 4-year-old son a few years ago.
Yeah, what was that? The old switch thing? He was beating the kids with a belt and a switch?
It's called second chances, man.
Yeah, it's still, I don't know. There's 300 million people to pick from. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about Russell Brand. He's now being formally investigated by London police, and even more women have come forward with making accusations against Russell Brand. The London Sun yesterday, the headline screamed, "This might be the tip of the iceberg." And this is going to shock you, but there have been several videos of Russell Brand as part of his show in front of a live audience actually making prank calls to real police departments reporting fake rape cases and making jokes about it.
Wait, over the years or just very recently?
No, over the years.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't prove anything, but what's funny about rape?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
Meanwhile, Brand's people say that he is a victim of cancel culture.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you rape people. You get canceled.
And celebrities, they're not always welcome, Steve. You know that. They're not always welcome.
Not always.
No. Here are 5 celebrities who have been banned from entering various countries.
Okay.
Beyonce, banned from Malaysia. They said that she was too rude and risque. Lady Gaga was banned from Indonesia for singing a song that was pro-homosexuality.
Okay.
Snoop Dogg banned from Norway and the United Kingdom for not declaring the money that he brought in and marijuana.
Snoop Dogg can't go to London?
Can't go to London.
Wow.
Sharon Stone made some negative comments about China. She was banned from there.
Okay.
And John Bon Jovi was supposed to do a concert in China, and when the Chinese were arranging everything, the authorities there saw that he used a mural of the Dalai Lama as a backdrop at a previous gig. Denied entry into the country.
Was the Dalai Lama, did he have a joint hanging out of his mouth? Was it disparaging or what?
I don't know why the Chinese hate the Dalai Lama so much.
What are you kidding, man? Tibet. They don't acknowledge Tibet as its own place.
Free Tibet, baby.
Free Tibet,
yeah.
And of course, I mean, we all, when you think of the Dalai Lama, you immediately think of John Bon Jovi.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Clearly, yeah.
Everything going good in Minneapolis?
As far as we know, I mean, the sun's coming up and we're all here. You know, what else do we need?
That's really good. Hey, I'll talk to you tomorrow with some movie reviews and some scoopage. Have a great day. See ya.
See you later, Mike Evans with the Hollywood Report right there. Speaking of Hollywood, hey, how about this story, Zepp? You sent this around. Matthew McConaughey's mother.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey, actor, Texas guy.
Right.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
That guy. His mom coughed up a little intel one night when everybody was, quote, sitting around in Greece, which means they're all on the hooch.
Yeah.
And his mom goes, Woody Harrelson stops by. They're hanging out. They're friends.
As happens in Greece.
As happens in Greece. So you got Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, and Matthew's mom looks at Woody and says, "Oh, I knew your dad, Woody." And she goes, "Just saying, we may have frequented the same similar place out in West Texas one time when he was on furlough."
What?
What she was inferring was that maybe they're brothers.
Yeah.
She spent a little time with Woody Harrelson's father.
Yeah. I mean, when a mom says, "I spent a little time back in the day, my single days, with a soldier on furlough," you can go ahead and infer.
He was a bad boy, too.
See, Matthew's parents were separated for a while, and during that time, Matthew's mom took up with Woody's dad, and what do you know?
They were on a break.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Man, if those guys turn out to be brothers, it's not going to mean anything to anybody except them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's kind of funny that you could be sitting there with your friend, and then after all these years, how much ouzo does it take to get your mom to finally go, "Oh, I've been meaning to tell you.
I can tell you how much of
you guys are brothers."
Right?
I thought they talked about this like a few months ago.
Oh, did they? I just saw
this. They speculated on it.
They speculated on it.
Yeah,
and want to do a reality show together with their families.
I missed that whole thing.
Yeah, but we didn't hear that mom had,
that's where it came from.
Mom had coughed it up drunk. But yeah, my mom's got a habit of that, so I get it. Moms do that. That could be a whole social media segment for us, couldn't it? Just things that moms have blurted out drunk on the holidays. Yeah.
Candace is like, "Hang on, this is gonna
let me get my keyboard.
No,
I've got a file on my laptop. I got to open this up. It's too big to send in one email."
No more socials. We're done with that.
My mom was, let's see, we moved to Kentucky in 1975. She was 47 years old. And 2 nights before we moved, she had a few margaritas at her friend's house across the street. Good old Alice Dunlap said, "Come on over, Imelda, have a few drinks before you guys leave town." And my mom woke up the next morning and said, "Oh, my gosh, I don't think we can make the trip tomorrow. I must have the flu." And Alice had to explain to her, "No, honey, that's a hangover." She'd never had one. 47 years old, never had one.
Cute.
Just not a drinking family.
Yeah.
To which I say every day, thank God. There was enough going on without the hooch in that household, let me tell you.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Thursday, September the 21st at 8:30. Sam Ekstrom will join us for a chat about this weekend's Vikings action. And then at 9 o'clock, we have a guy named Steve Gonsalves, who is the star of Ghost Hunters, and he wrote a book called A Life with Ghosts. Ooh. Yeah, we'll be talking about the paranormal at 9 o'clock. That's how we like to roll around here. So we all heard about the plane in South Carolina. The plane! The plane that went down. It was what was it? An F-35 fighter jet. A Marine ejected from the cockpit. There was a mishap. We don't have specifics on what went wrong with the plane, but the story we all heard about last week. He ejected. There was bad weather, and then the plane basically disappeared, which is a sterling. A ringing endorsement for stealth technology because he had not turned on. I mean, he was flying under stealth, and that's why radar couldn't find. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Like, this thing just disappeared, and the military themselves are like, "Hey, man, our stuff works. What can we tell you?"
For like half the day, I think that was 6 to 8 hours. I forget exactly the exact amount of time anyway, but they didn't know. They thought it might even still be in the air, flying around.
Yep. Yeah, so that's the pilot had said, I lost. I mean, I didn't see it. The weather was so bad when he ejected, he couldn't even tell you what direction, he didn't even get a visual on his own plane as he got out of it. So, yeah, they finally have found the wreckage. And we said back then, when we first heard, like, okay, this thing went down in one of the lakes, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't care what the weather is. In South Carolina in September, someone's fishing on any body of water you can find. My brother Bob lived there for years. His boys grew up with fishing poles in their hands all the time. That's what you do there. So as luck would have it, the investigators down there did come up with a few people who were aware of what happened. We do have an eyewitness or an ear witness account, finally. And we think it's worth sharing with you because this is right out of central casting from a movie about the South from the 1970s.
I was in the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a screeching, between a screech and a whistle.
Yes, sir.
What is this? And I heard a boom. Then my whole house shook. Did a meteorite come out of space or something? And I said, well, if the airplane, it needed to be reported. That thing was flying just too low. Choppers keep flying around. I said, well, somebody must have robbed the bank or whatever. Just through the grace of God, nobody didn't get hurt. Anything man-made can malfunction. But it needs to be investigated, and the public needs to know what really happened. It could have been a major disaster.
Ladies and gentlemen, we give you Little Richard. I mean, Randolph White. That's it.
My.
I tell you what, man, that guy, he went Little Richard, he went David Lee Roth, he went all kinds of great caterwaulers from rock history on that one.
Between a screech and a whistle.
Man, that is literally, that's just gorgeous.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it.
Anything man-made can malfunction.
Yeah.
What he didn't say, what's implied is, but anything God made is perfect. You knew that. I was just waiting for that. That's a Southern preacher. That's the start of a Southern preacher's sermon right there. Anything man-made can malfunction.
Testify.
Let me tell you something. Oh man, that just I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just telling you straight up. When I heard that, oh man, I kind of miss the South sometimes. It made me feel like I was home.
Before he got to the scream, I put my finger on the beep button. Did you think he was going into the bathroom to take a shave?
Yeah, I was in the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a scream.
That tells you he knew what he was doing. Oh, I can't say that with a microphone in front of my face. He switched that. I'm going to start saying I'm going to take a shave. See how long I can say it on there without slipping up. Next commercial break. Don't mind me. I'm just going to go take a shave. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
That's the eyewitness account I need for everything that ever goes missing from now on. I just want to hear that guy tell me that story over and over again.
Right. This guy's good. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more airtime. There are internet influencers bearing down on South Carolina right now looking for Randolph White.
Sorry, my brain on full alert. Randolph Scott. That's Blazing Saddles. Randolph Scott,
yes,
right?
Sir, yeah.
I was thinking it was Randolph White. Speaking of things gone missing, this is actually a sad story from North Carolina. A guy was driving last year in the town of Hickory, North Carolina. Lovely town in the mountains down there. I've been to. He was following his Google Maps at night during a big thunderstorm. Now in the summer and into September, this is a year ago, in the South, you get these big bangers. I mean, it's lights out, man. Lightning, thunder, crazy rain. I get it. It can be really difficult to see where you're going. He was following the navigation from Google Maps. The path he was following led him to a span of a bridge that had been washed away 9 years earlier and never replaced. This guy's Jeep went off the road down into a body of water. and he drowned. He died. A young guy with 2 kids, in his 40s. He's got 2 young kids. It's a terrible story. His wife is suing Google. And when I first see this, every time I see this headline, I'm like, well, don't stare at your damn TV. Don't stare at your screen, your Google app thing. Look out your windshield, dude. But by all accounts, it was one of these just bad, super dark at night, not a well-lit road. Couldn't see at all that the road he was on was just about to disappear. Locals had known it, obviously, for 9 years, but there's not a sign that says this bridge is out, nothing. Look. And here's the problem. So his wife is suing Google. They have determined, and they're able to prove, people have been trying to get Google to update this particular thing for years. Hey, guys, you still show this bridge here. It's not. Yeah. And they've never updated it. And so, I went right from, okay, this guy, come on, stop staring at your screen, to now I'm like, oh, yeah, go get something from Google. Screw those guys.
Well, first of all, Google has no legal responsibility.
That's true.
The county, the state, city that puts signs up. How about a barrier?
Yeah.
That over the frickin' bridge that's out in the middle of the night. Say this guy wasn't following Google directions. Say he just took a right down the road and he's from out of town. And, well, I think I need to go east over here. Maybe I'll get my way back to the highway. The same thing would have happened.
Yeah.
If there weren't signs. I'm reading this in the New York Post this morning, and I don't see anything in the story asking the obvious question. Did the county, the city, the state put out signs? And how about a barrier over the bridge? Let's
anything.
Just a piece of tape if you'd like.
Right, a little blinking light.
Reflective. That's who then you would sue. But I don't, good luck with the Google thing. They've got... a gazillion dollars. If I was Google, I'd just say, here's $10 million.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
We're going to update that right now. Sorry for this a horrible loss of life. But, they're a private app company, and I just don't know what their legal obligation there is. But, update the damn thing.
I can speak from experience. Flashing lights and signs, sometimes those don't work either.
Yeah.
To wit, as they say. Years ago, my brother Jim and I drove from Baltimore to Bowling Green, Kentucky, which sounds like a bad country song. I went from Baltimore to Bowling Green. We had to get to a wedding, so we were going to another brother's wedding. Long story short, his wife and kids flew. I got suckered into driving with him. I don't remember the details. We are driving through eastern Tennessee in the middle of the night at 10 p.m. It's dark as all get out. And my brother did not realize that, the path is you get on 40, you get to Knoxville, and you follow signs to Nashville, not Chattanooga. That's all you got to know. So I wake up. I'm falling asleep. I wake up, and then suddenly I'm like, where are we? He goes, we're about 50 miles outside of Chattanooga. And I say, we're not supposed to go to Chattanooga. We have made a mistake. So instead of turning our ass around and going back up the highway we just came down, we pulled over at a rest area, looked at the map on the wall, because, again, this is pre-app, pre-anything. We just, we're in Baltimore, and I'm like, just get out to 81, take it down to 40. I'll take you in from there. I mean, I thought it was easy, but he put us on the wrong highway. Anyway, we look at a map on the wall of a rest area, and we recognize, okay, we can actually, instead of having to cut all the way back up to Knoxville, we can take the state road, like Highway 17, that cuts up, and then we'll hit 40 where we want to hit it. We'll save a little time. We'll just do that. So we think we're saving time. So we get on this little rural road late at night. We're driving, and he's driving. He's trying to make up, because now we're like, oh, man, we just lost an hour. Damn it,
Yeah.
We're blasting through these. We come to this little town, little Mayberry-looking town. By now it's 11:30, midnight. It's totally blackened, shut down. And I start noticing signs on the road as we're driving on this 2-lane road. Every now and again, there'll be a sign that says Watts Bar evacuation route. And I'm like, what's Watts Bar? And why is anyone trying to evacuate? Had no idea. See another sign, Watts Bar evacuation route, a few miles later. And I finally said it. I go, what do you think that is? And he's like, I don't care, whatever. We're driving. And then we come to what looks like a clearing, and we see ahead of us big flashing red lights. And then on each side of the road, facing us in both sides, a bigger than normal stop sign. And my brother's he's just going. And I'm like, dude, what about the red lights? He's like, there's no one out here. I'm like, do you see any other headlights? I'm like, yeah, but don't you think? And then literally, as we're approaching these red lights, and he is yet to hit the gas, the brakes, I had this flash from when we went through that little town. There was a sign that simply said, "No night ferry." Oh. And I came to mind. I went, stop! stop, and he slammed on the brakes, and I kid you not, the front wheels of that car were in the water when we stopped.
Oh, my God.
The road itself literally just disappeared into a giant lake.
I love
and we just stop, and I'm like, and I'm looking, and it's pitch black, and the headlights almost were underwater, like literally, it was like, and I'm like, back up, and we pull it back up. We're going down a damn like a boat ramp, by the time we stopped. And we go backing up, and then he's like, "Oh my God!" And we're kind of panicked. And I'm like, "I don't know that road. I think we're trying to go west, and we were just heading north. Take that left right there." Like suddenly we're decided we don't know where we are. We bust out another road, and then I'm not seeing Watts Bar evacuation route signs anymore because we're heading straight to the Watts Bar nuclear power plant. And we round a corner, and there's those two towers, and they're lit up like a Spielberg scene.
Yeah.
And then we both go, ah! We went right from almost drowning to now we're going to go have the China syndrome situation. And so in the middle of the night, when we were already terrified, coming up on I didn't even know there was a nuclear power plant over there. And I found out years later, it actually hadn't even been turned on yet. It was operating, but it wasn't producing electricity at that time. But it was lit up, and the steam was coming out of the top. And I mean, really, it was just one of the scariest things ever. All that to say, sometimes when you got flashing red lights and giant stop signs, it still isn't enough.
An adventure for you guys.
And I kid you not, if he had been alone, he would have drowned that night. He would have gone straight in because I was going, stop.
Yep.
It's good times.
Oh, man.
Good times pre-GPS. We didn't even have a map in the car. We had to go to a rest area and stare at a map. Couldn't take a picture of it with our phones because we didn't have phones.
Yeah, I know it.
The good old days.
The good old days.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
This is the KQ Morning Show. I'm Steve Gorman. I'm happy to be here. It is Thursday, September the 21st. AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long. I interviewed Brian Johnson a couple years ago for my syndicated rock show, and he said that was the first song he sang as a member of AC/DC. And he went into the studio, and Mutt Lang, the producer, kept telling him, get a little higher. Just go a little higher in the range. And then all the songs as they were working on Back in Black. Now, remember, the guy got hired right after Bon Scott died. They replaced him with Brian Johnson. He immediately is in a studio, and with no time to think, he's in the studio with arguably the biggest rock band on the planet singing these songs. And he said, Mutt kept going higher, sing it higher, sing it higher. And I go, at any point during that time, did you think you'd still be singing those songs 40 years later? And he was like, hell no. He's like, what, are you kidding? Never in a million years. I thought I was going to be around for a minute. They'd probably fire me. He goes, I didn't think twice. But anyway, they're playing at Power Trip, AC/DC out in California. And Brian Johnson back in the fold. And he'll be singing those songs all these years later. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, very incredible. And what an addition to AC/DC. Just when he elevated them. I mean, they were great, and then they were, biggest band on the planet kind of stuff after he joined the band.
Back in Black was Black. This is crazy. Bon Scott died in February. Back in Black was in stores in July.
Yeah.
That's 6 months. I mean, from, oh, my God, we lost our singer to who's that guy? And Bon Scott was a fan of Brian Johnson's. That's how they knew who he was. So, Bon had told them, there's this guy in Newcastle. He's a great singer.
So, here we are, pre-internet days, out in the middle of South Dakota, where I'm being raised. News doesn't get out there. Our local radio station is a country radio station, and the Hog Report station, and Dirty Deeds, and of course I just remember Dirty Deeds ruled this school year that we had. We're constantly playing the Dirty Deeds, and then Back in Black comes out. So obviously we go get Back in Black. Dude, I didn't even know that Bon Scott had died. We didn't have a subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. Right. There wasn't. MTV, Kurt Loder wasn't telling me crap yet. And so the album comes out, and we're sitting, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Bon sounds different. He sounds a bit different. We didn't read anything on the album. Right. Now we figured it out after a couple of playings. We're like, wait a second, this isn't Bon Scott. But that's how quick it was and how fast things happened and how little news we had back then. First couple of times I listened to the album on cassette, I had no idea there was a new lead singer.
Sure. Brian Johnson was in London recording a vacuum cleaner commercial, so he was able to fit in the AC/DC audition on the same day. Literally went and sang a thing about Hoover, or some vacuum thing. You can see it on YouTube. Now that I'm thinking about it, but yeah, he was like, "Do you want to come down to London and sing with this band?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm coming down next week. I got to do a jingle anyway, so yeah, I'll squeeze it in."
Presumably, Hoover still has rights to that commercial. Wouldn't have you played? I mean, if I was Hoover, I'm still playing it because I paid for it and you got the deal.
Yeah.
You're right. You don't have to pay out AC/DC money. You've got him on the old Brian Johnson, voiceover, sing-over, jingle money package. I'd be running that commercial round the clock into perpetuity.
Yeah, and from that to You Shook Me All Night Long in literally a matter of weeks. Okay, good little run in the early 1980 for Brian Johnson. Unbelievable. AC/DC, as I said, playing out in California in October as part of the Power Trip. What about this? What's going on with the naked people? Let's move on. Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Giant connecting air. If you ever fly an American, you're going through Dallas at some point. A hub city for American Airlines. And on a concourse the other day, Terminal C, which is all American, at 10:15 at night, and I've been at Dallas-Fort Worth many different times, and it's always packed. It's like Atlanta. There's always a crowd. There's video of a guy just walking through the terminal, and I'm just going to go ahead and call him buck-ass naked.
And super casual.
Not even a sock, not a hint of having ever worn clothing. He looks like a guy he's so comfortable and confident and just moving slowly through the terminal, buck-ass naked. You'd think to yourself, this man has never put on clothes.
Any luggage?
No. I mean, well, not in a manner of speaking. We don't have the front. We can't see what the front office is involving.
No.
But he's just a big guy, a big bald dude. Looks like probably an interior lineman in high school back in the day. Big fella.
Put together.
Yeah, he's put together. And of course, somebody had their phone out and, hey man, check that out. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Do not record this.
There's a naked guy in the airport. Yes, there is. My man.
All right. Now, this is a commentary, I think, on men and women. I love this.
Sure.
As the lady comes in, so he's whipping out the phone, and she said, "Don't be recording him." And his response, of course, is what any guy would say. There's a naked guy. Don't record what? The naked guy walking through the airport?
Do not record this. Do not record this.
There's a naked guy in the airport. Yes, there is. My man.
By the way,
that is literally the same. That's no different than if you are the one who encounters Sasquatch. You're pulling your phone out,
of course,
and you're videotaping that. That's insane to think you wouldn't.
And your girlfriend's saying, "Do not record Sasquatch. Don't make eye contact.
He might attack.
Stop it." By the way, when he says there's a naked guy walking through the airport, like, do you see what I'm seeing? Why wouldn't I record this?
Yeah.
When he says that, the naked guy walking super casually gives him the old nod, and he goes, "Yeah, you are. I see you." One more time.
Do not record this. Do not record this.
There's a naked guy in the airport. Yes, there is. My man.
My man.
Give him the big guy nod.
He thinks he's at the chili feed or something.
Yeah, right.
If you're walking, okay, here's a thought, because I've there are times in my life, it's been a while, but I used to run, and if you're jogging down the sidewalk, you're running, and someone's running towards you, every now and again you just give a quick high five. You'll give each other the head nod, and then sometimes even the high five.
Sure.
Just in passing, not a hard one, but keep going. If you're walking at MSP next time you're leaving town, you're walking down a terminal and you see a naked dude coming to you, do you go in for the fist bump?
No. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't go out of my way, but
I'm saying he's coming right at you, and you recognize this is not a threat.
Yeah.
This guy's he's completely unconcerned with me. I don't know. Because I'm picturing when that guy says, "My man," my immediate thing in my brain is seeing this guy up close, and I'd be like, I'd go for the fist bump. I don't know.
You got this.
It'd be kind of weird.
I was driving just a couple years ago, driving on Uptown, just up Hennepin Avenue, and running down the middle of the street was a guy completely naked.
Really?
Comes up to my car, gives the door a little tap, like, "Let me in." I'm like,
really?
I'm not going to let you in.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, hop in. We'll go to the drive-in. Yeah, really
wow.
odd.
No kidding.
And I just watched in the rear view as he strolled back down the street.
So he wasn't like running in distress. like he was fleeing something. He was just out for a good old streak.
I don't know the backstory.
I'm trying to think of public nudity I've seen, and not when you least expect it like that. I don't know that I've ever come across. I have seen people streaking, but that's not the same thing. That's like someone's doing it for attention. I've seen. We played a gig in Copenhagen once years ago in a club, and in the back of the room at some point we saw a guy crowd surfing, and they were passing him forward closer to the stage, and the whole band is watching this as we're playing, and every 2.5 seconds, another piece of clothing was ripped off this guy's body. And by the time they got right to the front row, it was just his socks and shoes were all that were left.
Oh.
They had somehow, he was wearing sweatpants or something. They pulled them over his shoes. And then we thought they were going to throw this guy up on stage. They weren't. He just bounced around and crowd surfed for a legitimate 7 full minutes with only shoes on his feet.
Watch where you put your hands.
In the Danish winter time. And we were like, he'll never get those clothes back. I mean, the shirt was over there, the jacket was over here, his hat was over there. He just and he was having the time of his life. And I was like, man, that's not something I could ever see myself being a part of.
Wow, man, I've been really, messed up in public, just out walking around pretty, did I get home last night? Or I woke up in a yard once with a dog licking my face, but not once have I ever, ripped off all the clothes.
No, nor have I. I've obviously, in various stages of drunkenness, you're just I'm going to have to go next to that small tree and urinate. No one will see me. And of course, you're wide open. But the pants always stay up. It's never dawned on me to take all my clothes off unless I'm somewhere behind a locked door. That's just me. And by the way, our buddy in Dallas-Fort Worth, he was taken into custody without incident. Very peaceful, calm. The authorities have not released any more information about what's going on there. I would assume somebody walked into a men's room and found a pile of clothes somewhere. Or maybe he's an employee. Maybe he got in one of those secret doors you don't notice until you see someone come through it. Well, if we get any updates, we'll let you know.
What if they found the clothes in the pilot's cockpit?
That'd be tremendous.
My man.
Yeah, my man indeed. There's another more nudity here in the city in southern Spain. Is it Malaga or Malaga? Anyone know how you pronounce it? Malaga sounds good. It's a culture town, nightlife, a lot going on. Tourists go there all the time. It's just I'm sure it's beautiful and wonderful because everywhere I've ever been in Spain is. And the other night, outside of a bar, a completely stark naked woman stumbled into the bar area and just started destroying a whole terrace, picking up chairs, kicking over tables. And there's video of this too. And everyone's just watching in complete bewilderment. I have a feeling if it was a dude, then some of the security would have just tackled him or something. But because it's a woman, everyone's just kind of more in shock. And it's just what the hell am I seeing? And what are we doing? And there's no report yet. She was also taken into custody. No word on what she's doing. Eventually, somebody does go stop her. But at the end of the video, the one word she is heard screaming is sexist. Sexist. She's calling people sexist for stopping her naked rampage.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Or she's maybe using that in the right context.
Maybe not sexist, but rather property owner. And you're destroying my stuff, lady. Maybe it's just that simple.
That does. Do you know people? I mean, I guess I'm thinking of a friend now that when things went haywire, when they're drunk or we're out, and some people fight, right? You have that one buddy that just starts throwing. What are you doing? And we're all having a good time, and suddenly they're angry and fighting. Yeah, I did have a friend, and he would just start taking his clothes off. We're like, whoa. Steve was there. We're like, Steve, get Steve. His clothes are coming off, and he would just start taking things off, usually at a bar somewhere or at a music festival. Whoa, Steve's stripping.
Wow,
Who's
there
in
he
charge
goes.
of Steve right now? So maybe it's a thing. I guess.
I went to high school with a pair of brothers, Greg and Eric, and they were cool. Their dad ran the Napa store. They both had old Corvettes, and the guys at the Napa they would just fix the cars all the time. So they were constantly tinkering and making sure their cars ran great. They were just a year apart in school. One was my age, the older brother was a year ahead, and they both had Corvettes. I mean, that's cool, right?
Yeah.
You're like, and they're the guys in 8th grade who had mustaches. We're like, man, Greg and Eric have already got mustaches, and their dad's got Corvettes for them, and they can't even drive yet. They were like, cool. But they were also the guys who at parties they'd start doing shots of Jack and want to fight.
Yeah.
And they both had the same thing. If somebody crossed them, if they decided it was about to go down, they would both. I've seen both these guys do this several times. They'd hop up and rip their shirt off. And I always thought, what is that?
Yeah.
What? You got jeans, boots, no shirt for the fight. I don't know. I just always felt a little. It's just a T-shirt, but I felt like it's a layer of protection if I'm going to be in a fight.
Why do guys always do that? They rip
both?
the shirt off to fight. You're right. You can get an abrasion, a scratch. You want that extra protection.
It feels good.
It's totally true. It's like, hey, man, I swear to God, man, if you cross that line one more time, go, I got it! And the shirt would come off, and you're like, dude, relax.
I mean, if it was socially acceptable for me to do that, I would do it. I would want to fight naked if I could, but I got too much stuff to protect.
I'm a big fan of fighting fully clothed. It just makes you got more to grab on. It's advantageous for both fighters.
Yeah, I would never want to be in a fight naked. But
and by the way,
I'm more of a lover than a fighter.
You're already self-conscious.
Well, that's very true. What would it take to get Candace Wheeler at a party to start to just that's it? We're throwing hands. What would it take?
Worst lead singer ever, Ozzy, fraud.
There it goes.
Wait, hold on.
Oh my God.
Goats are evil.
Yeah.
Goats are evil. I don't know. You'd have to, really, really make me mad. I don't know. There's something about Gigi.
Gigi's dumb.
Gigi.
There's those guys we were talking about at the old carnivals and state fairs. There used to be a guy who would just insult the crowd, and he would sit on the seat, and if you could hit the target with the softball, it would dunk him in the water.
Right.
And so he would get people to throw the ball so hard they couldn't aim right. We can set up a competition. Piss Candace Wheeler off. Who can get her so annoyed she'll actually throw off? It would take. I can't even imagine it.
I looked at the itinerary for the Cragen Resort trip coming up here the first weekend in October, and there is some free time in the middle of Saturday.
Oh man, that is what it's gonna be all about.
All right, get that cooking.
Join the KQ Morning Show as we piss Candace Wheeler off.
Hey, listen. So the Vikings acquired a new running back in a trade. I don't feel super excited about this. I'm not sure. That's why we have Sam Ekstrom, host and Vikings insider for the podcast network Locked on Sports Minnesota. He's our guest at 8:30. We're talking Week 3 at 8:30. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Thursday, September the 21st. A few days away from the Vikings-Chargers contest. The L.A. Chargers come in. It's still so weird. I said it, though. L.A. Chargers come in. They're 0-2, as are the Vikings. And right now, to discuss this game, Sam Ekstrom, host and Vikings insider from the podcast network Locked on Sports Minnesota. Sam, good morning, sir. I got to go right here to start off. I mean, if the Vikings had protected the ball, let's say the Vikings, like the Chargers, had no turnovers so far through 2 games, you could make an argument that the team would be 2-0.
Yeah, take 7 turnovers off the board. I think you're right, Steve. And the critical parts of the field where they've happened, an interception at the goal line against Tampa, a fumble at the goal line by Justin Jefferson against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Heck, you could maybe just reverse those 2, and they might be 2-0. But you take all of them off the board, and they certainly have been, if you look at the numbers, they've been one of the better offensive teams in the league at moving the ball, and they've just choked it away with fumbles and interceptions, and most of them very ill-timed.
Sam, how much of this is technical, we can drill down, we can focus on this, and how much is just almost an ethereal spirit that you got to try to rid the locker room of before it turns into something?
Yeah, I love the way you put that. I think that sometimes these things just add up in a random way, and you can't really control it, kind of like penalties. You might have 8 penalties one week. Does it mean that the next week you can just drill that into you and be more technically sound? I don't know. I think maybe things just happen, and they happen in bunches. And people talk about fumble luck in the NFL, too. If the Vikings had recovered any one of those fumbles, we might be having a different conversation. But they've literally recovered 0 fumbles, and that's something that over time is going to even out. But their fumble recovery skills, Steve, have also been lacking quite a bit. I see them doing the drills at practice. They're working on that. They did it all training camp. I don't think it's something they weren't conscious of. I just think it's something crazy in this league that once in a while will creep up on you and kind of harpoon a game or two.
Sam Ekstrom on the KQ Morning Show with us talking Vikings-Chargers. So far, Kirk Cousins has been just winging that ball around. Not a lot of action on the ground, although now with the signing of Cam Akers, I guess that's a sign that the team is trying to get a little bit more balance in that offense. What's Cam Akers look like to you? Is this a move you're excited about?
Yeah, I don't know if I can get too hyped about this running game right now. The whole thing kind of seems broken. Hence the reason they go in and bring a guard, Dalton Reisner. They get a running back in Cam Akers, just trying to make something click. It seems like an indictment to me of their running back depth. I still believe they like Alexander Madison, but clearly they don't trust Ty Chandler. Clearly they are not thrilled with Myles Gaskin, who they signed just before the season, and they're trying to find a piece that they're familiar with from Kevin O'Connell's days with the Rams. A guy that he, helped them win a Super Bowl, who hasn't been spectacular as a pro, to be honest, but I think he does give you a little bit of a different element than Madison. So I don't think this is a game changer. I don't think this is Adrian Peterson coming in to save the day, but it's definitely a back with a little bit more credibility in the league and more reps under his belt than you currently have in those depth roles.
Yeah, and I think they've been shopping him around for a while and not a lot of takers. So, I mean, I see why you're going for some offensive linemen. You need some more depth there. You've had some injury problems this season, but it's a little unsettling now to be looking around for a running back just a couple of games into the season. Before we get to too much about the Chargers coming up this weekend, Sam, I'm running down the Vikings news, getting ready for this interview. Here comes the weekend, and we haven't talked to you, I don't believe, since the wild speculation started circulating that Kirk Cousins should go to the Jets for a draft pick, which I laughed off immediately. And now the stories are circulating again. If they go 0-3 this weekend, I know I'm getting way ahead of ourselves, but what is your take on this? On these wild trade talk rumors that seem to have traction from everyone to ESPN to Chuck down on the corner at Al's Breakfast about Cousins being traded.
Yeah, it's sensitive topic matter because there's so many people that want to ride or die with Kirk Cousins, and he's the guy, and he's going to lead this team forward. And then the other half of the fan base is out. They're out on Cousins. Very few people in between. So it gets people's ire up when you talk about this. But I think if you're looking purely from a futuristic standpoint, like how can we maximize our assets? If you found a way to trade Cousins and get something meaningful for him this year, if you're under the assumption you're not going to re-sign him, Zep, right? Like he's got this expiring contract, then that does make sense. It does make sense. But does it make, in the real world, can it happen? I mean, he's got a no-trade clause, so he could veto it. Yeah. He'd be, it's so hard to get someone up to speed with an offense that late in the game. Yeah. The price would have to be right for the Vikings to make it work, and I don't know what kind of capital the Jets are sitting on because they've already given up stuff to get Aaron Rodgers in the building. I don't know how the money works for the Jets because they're paying Aaron Rodgers an absolute fortune. So while it's good, certainly good talk radio, I don't know if the details would ever come together on something like that, as desperate as the Jets might be.
That sounds like a lot of fan fodder, probably. Well, all right, back to the game this Sunday. You got a couple of 0-2 teams here that desperately need to win. I did watch some of that shootout last week between the Chargers and the Dolphins. We know they can sling it around. Their defense kind of seems a little bit like ours, can do some really great things, but it has a couple of deficiencies that are exposed from time to time. How do we match up against the Chargers?
Yeah, well, the former Viking Eric Kendricks, who's going to make his return, it looks like he might be in danger of playing. He's got an injury. Their running back, Austin Eckler, is also in jeopardy of playing. So they've got some key players on both sides of the ball that might not be suited up in this one. The over-under is 54, which is the biggest number of any game this week. So the defense optional. In this one, the Chargers can light it up. Justin Herbert, Herbert is now at the stage of his career where he's got to win. He puts up huge stats, and he hasn't won anything meaningful for Los Angeles. Does that sound familiar? A quarterback who puts up big stats and people get critical of. Yeah. But again, I think it's hard to really doubt the Vikings' offense at this stage. The defense is question mark because in the Tampa game, they showed some really good things. In the Eagles game, they really gave way in the run game.
Yeah.
So can that defense firm things up? They've been very blitz happy, but they've not been really affecting quarterbacks as much despite all those blitzes. So I'd like to see them get more sacks, get more pressures, and really fluster the quarterback if they're going to blitz 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Sam Ekstrom is with us on the KQ Morning Show. You just mentioned Justin Herbert. He's at that time in his career. I'm still holding on to my stock. He still does things every week that are, kind of that look pretty special to me. I no longer am buying Brandon Staley's act. It seems like he's had a few years now, and the Chargers, they continue. Look, I'm a Titans fan, so last Sunday I kept telling myself it's okay. The Chargers will Charger before it's all said and done. When you look at the Chargers organization since the move, and when especially Coach Staley, do you think that they're on the right track, or do you expect a change if they don't get into the playoffs this year?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, that playoff game last year, I'm sure has people calling for heads to roll after they blew the lead against the Jaguars in the playoffs. Staley has gotten a lot of flack for his kind of analytics forward decision making. He's very aggressive on fourth downs. He does some unorthodox things. And I do think that's a little bit of the way of the future for NFL coaches. And when it doesn't work, you're going to get destroyed. I mean, people are just not accustomed to that type of thinking. So if he pulls strings that don't work, it's not going to look good. He's going to have egg on his face. Allegedly, he's supposed to be like a very defensively smart coach, and the defense has often been their downfall. So that could be the end for him. If the defense ends up being the reason why they don't win again this year, then he could be in trouble. And yeah, even as exciting as he was early when he got there, I think that the proof is in the pudding, and they just haven't won enough games. They're about a 500 operation since he arrived.
Sam, I saw a tweet on Sunday that just cracked me up. It said Justin Jefferson already has more yards than any receiver in Chicago Bears history, which is
how is that possible?
How
can that be possible?
It's an indictment of the Chicago Bears, but it's also a holy crap. This guy, he truly is showing himself. I mean, obviously he's a spectacular player, but with every passing game, I just start looking at him and I think, yeah, there's no ceiling, and he really is one of these potentially one of these all-time short-list Mount Everest receivers. I don't think I'm overstating that, am I?
I don't think you are either. I mean, he keeps setting records every year. The youngest player to do this, the youngest player to do that, the fastest player to 5,000 yards in NFL history. And I know he's taken advantage of a league that passes it more than it ever has.
Sure.
But there are other receivers in this league that have come around that we've also hailed as the next, Jerry Rice, the next Randy Moss. And a lot of them fade after these quick starts. And Justin Jefferson has not faded. In fact, he keeps ascending more and more, and teams keep giving all this attention to him, and still he finds a way to get 150 yards. Yeah. He's on pace, I think, for 2,600 right now. I don't know if that'll last. But 2,000 yards is in the works this year if this continues at any relative rate. So it's pretty incredible. We're watching history potentially, and now you just worry. Well, that contract extension they didn't give him, what's it going to be after this year to sign this guy long term? It's going to be exorbitant.
Show me the money. Now, imagine if they scared up a running game. I think they had I don't know what the stats were, but last year I felt like they had a pretty solid running game. It showed up enough that, it complemented the passing game. Justin Jefferson needs a bit more of a running game. I think this offense does. Kirk Cousins certainly does. Where's this offensive line? They picked up this Reisner guy right now. What's the depth there? How are they looking?
Yeah, so Dalton Reisner could come in and be a starter. I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if he's had enough time on task with this offense to be a starter, but they paid him $4 million. He started, for 4 years in Denver. He's a high draft pick. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall that he's going to fit in somewhere, maybe at right guard. Ed Ingram has been the weak link. I could see Reisner as your starting right guard here, if not this week, maybe the week after that. And then, you lost Oli Udoh, who was a piece at tackle with, left tackle with Christian Darrisaw out. Garrett Bradbury is still hurt with that back injury, so you've got your backup center in there. You're changing things up at right guard. clearly the Vikings are trying to tweak some things on that line so that they can run block a little better. And that's been a huge issue. I mean, as good as the passing game has been, you got to support it with something. You got to stay on schedule. You can't always be in 2nd and 11, and that's what the Vikings have had. So I still am confused why this offensive line has struggled to block or to run block when all these guys were drafted with the intention to run block, because this was the Mike Zimmer era. They ran the ball. This was a previous regime, and they all were supposed to be these great run blockers, and it hasn't panned out that way under Kevin O'Connell.
Sam Ekstrom joins us every Thursday. We always appreciate it. Do you already know what you're going to wear for the game, bud? Sweater, going with a T-shirt? What's the look going to be for Sunday?
Yeah, I think the weather being what it is, I think we can maybe even go with a nice polo and some khaki pants. No need to overdress when it's like 80 degrees out. I'm going to enjoy that.
Yeah. Looking good and analyzing good. That's there's got to be an old saying that puts those two things in the same minds. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just off the grid here. Sam, we'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, brother.
Yeah, you too, and it's always going to be the San Diego Chargers in my heart.
Damn straight it is.
Hell yeah.
Dan Fouts didn't play for the L.A. Chargers. Man.
Yeah, what was it? The Don Coryell, was it?
Eric Coryell.
Coryell, that's what it was, yeah.
Kellen Winslow Sr. and Dan Fouts just ripping through the league.
Yeah, Joyner back there is from the ball, too.
Never got a ring, but, man, those teams were fun. Hey, speaking of fun, KQ up north. Going up to Brainerd. Let's go. KQ up north with our friends at Big Deck. It's just a few weeks away. Join us October 5th through the 8th at Cragen's Resort on Gull Lake. Last chance this season to take in the peak fall colors up north. You can also join us. We're going to be playing on the world-class Cragen's Legacy courses, the Lehman 18 and Dutchess. Whew, I can't wait to get the sticks out. We're going to have some karaoke, a happy hour boat cruise, a live broadcast of this here KQ Morning Show. Go ahead and book your trip now. Why don't you take a weekend with us? 92KQRS.com is the place to go for tickets and all the details. Sponsored by BigDeck.com and, of course, Cragen's Resort on Gull Lake.
Steve.
Yes.
Help me out with this name. Steve, our guest, one of the top paranormal investigators in the world, pioneer in the industry. His last name is pronounced.
I'm going with Gonsalves, but we'll find out for sure.
At 9 o'clock, I can tell you.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Thursday, September the 21st. Great to have you with us as we are on the 4th lap of the race this morning. I was just listening to that song, Jealous Again, by my former band, the Black Crowes. And the piano on that song, spectacularly played by Chuck Leavell, who was in the Allman Brothers as a teenager. Had his own great band called Sea Level. He's toured with the Rolling Stones since the mid-'80s. He's their musical director, a legendary cat. You see him on tour. You'll see Chuck Leavell. He's on stage with Government Mule. Then he's on stage with Eric Clapton. Then he's on the Stones tour. Just anywhere, always playing. And what I always remember is when he came to the studio to play along to our record, and we all were looking at him like Jesus himself came in to play. When our producer George said, yeah, Chuck Leavell's going to play piano, we all went, yeah, right. And he goes, yeah, he's driving up from Macon. And then literally we all panicked. What do you mean? We can't. Chuck Leavell, we can't. He can't. Our record's not good enough for him.
What should we wear?
Truly, what should we wear? And he drove up and listened. He goes, man, it sounds great. Okay, let's try to take. And he just knocks out a piano track, and we're all looking at him like, how did you do that? How did that happen? Because it took us weeks to get those tracks. I mean, it took us days, I should say, for each song. It was the first time in the studio. We were still we were scared to death, in over our heads, and then this guy just waltzes in. And, of course, at the time, I don't even think he was 40. Maybe around 40-ish. This is 34 years ago. This is the summer of 1989. And he comes in and just... Yeah, I got this. He'd listen to a song once and then just play it. And we were just looking at him like he was literally Harry Houdini escaping from, some insane situation. But that's a longer story for another day. Right now, joining us on the KQ Morning Show, Steve Gonsalves, the star of Ghost Hunters, now also an author. His first book, A Life with Ghosts, is available everywhere you buy books. Steve, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for calling in, sir.
Awesome. Hey, yeah, thank you for having me. Really, really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk.
And we're excited to have you on the show. I am the kind of guy, I hear myself say the following sometimes. Yeah, I don't really believe that stuff. And then off the top of my head, I can think of 4 experiences I've had that are clearly this stuff that you spend your life in. You are a man. I mean, your book is called A Life with Ghosts, and you're telling a lot of stories. I'm assuming it goes way back for you. What's the first time you remember thinking, yeah, there's probably some other realms out there. There's other people that we just don't see? How old were you?
I was young. I was quite young. The intrigue started when I was I want to say 6 or 7 years old. By 10, 11, 12, I was reading just about every book you could think of, but I didn't actually have an experience until I was about 16 or 17, and I was actually looking for it. So I was out there looking for it, and something did happen. It actually happened in a graveyard of all places, because we don't really necessarily think of them to be that haunted. But it was my first time, and I was probably 16 then.
And so you were already on the hunt, like you said. You were looking for that. Did you question whether it was real? Did you have a thought of maybe I'm just making this up because it's something you were obviously already pursuing?
The very first time, I just reacted. I didn't even have time to think. I just remember, quite honestly, kind of getting out of there quick. I grabbed all my stuff and got out. I was quite scared. It wasn't until later, looking back, that I was like, okay, let's really think about that. What was it? Was it something ghostly? Was it, just some sort of environmental thing? And looking back, I think it was paranormal. I don't think it was environmental, but it sent me on my path of thinking, gosh, if I investigate this, things can and will happen. And luckily, they continue to happen. And every time, it kind of does the same thing to me. Disbelief, a little bit of fright, but a lot of intrigue and excitement.
Star of Ghost Hunters, Steve Gonsalves is with us on the KQ Morning Show. The book, A Life with Ghosts, is available everywhere. I'm reading that you also have had experiences with disembodied voices. That alone just puts a chill up my spine. Is there one that jumps out? Is this something that's happened to you multiple times? What's like the scariest? What does that even mean, a disembodied voice?
A disembodied, that is just kind of what it sounds like, a voice without a body. There's no physical body there that is creating this sound, yet somehow we're able to hear a voice coming out of thin air. And it has happened quite a bit. There's a place called Bucksteep Manor in the Berkshires of Massachusetts. It's where we actually heard sounds so loud that we had to scream over top of each other just to hear ourselves. And to us, it sounded like we were in the middle of a ballroom. You could hear voices. You could hear even dishes and movement, shuffling, footstep sounds, all of that. And those were all disembodied voices. There's another phenomena that we deal with a lot called electronic voice phenomena. For those who love what we do, they'll know the EVPs. That's this. And those are those same kind of voices, but recorded through audio recording devices. And we capture those quite a bit, too. And we're able to even hear distinct words. In Alcatraz, the prisoner actually even told us his number, his actual prisoner number. And so sometimes you're getting direct communication. And it's a really cool phenomenon.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Steve, since you brought up the tech, talk about some of the tools you use. And do you have a favorite piece of equipment to use?
Yes. My favorite, personally, I'd say, is a video camera. It sounds sort of like an easy go-to device, but when you have the abilities along with it, such as infrared and even some full spectrum or close to full spectrum cameras, you're now able to see and record things in the visible spectrum, things that we can see with our eyes, the infrared spectrum, and some other spectrums like violet, ultraviolet, And that is valuable because now we're able to see and record in all of these other spectrums that we wouldn't be able to with just our eyes. And you're able to record audio as well. So you have the ability to back up experiences that you're having, but also capture evidence that you didn't even know was happening. So if I were to have one piece of equipment to just grab every single time without thinking of it, it's going to be a video camera.
Do you ever feel threatened by the presence, or do you think they're peaceful?
Great question. I think it's both, quite honestly. We do find that people will be in death as they are in life. If somebody was a real, had a real sour attitude and did some nasty stuff when they were alive, it's likely that you can encounter the same type of attitude. But if they were nice and caring in life, you'll find that you'll encounter that as well. And it even goes for the haunting. Some hauntings do come from a really nasty thing where there's a terrible death or somebody wronged somebody, unfinished business. But there's also love that goes into it sometimes. Somebody didn't want to leave somebody or a place or a certain experience kept them behind. So it doesn't always have to be the dark side of things, although we do encounter that more often, I will say.
Steve Gonsalves is with us on the KQ Morning Show. I had one thing I want to share with you, and that was I was at a friend's backyard barbecue. I ran into the kitchen to get a beer, and as I stepped into the kitchen, peripherally, I noticed an older woman at the sink. Like in a blink of an eye, I just recognized, like, oh, I just walked right. I almost bumped into this woman. And then I turned to say, excuse me, and there was no one there. But I had this momentary flash, and I saw a woman, and she had a red bandana. I mean, I saw that enough, and I could see it. I walked outside, and I just must have had a bewildered look on my face. And the guy whose house it was, he said, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Okay, here's the craziest thing you'll ever hear me say. I swear I just saw an old woman in your kitchen, but she wasn't there." And I kid you not, he said, "Did she have a red bandana on?"
Ooh.
And he said, Sadie sees her all the time. He talks about her all the time.
That's cool.
Is that the kind of thing? I mean, okay, does that ring a bell? Anything like that ever happen with you? Do you ever have, do you get a vision of something that just is like boom and it's gone before you can even make sense of it?
Yes, absolutely. That does happen. With those circumstances, you have to be kind of careful because just like you'll spend your time after the fact just saying, did that really happen? Mm-hmm. Am I imagining that? Was it really there? So that can be tricky. Sometimes we get lucky and it's there for a few seconds, or we even are able to document it and examine it even further. But everybody has their own sort of, litmus test, I guess, or internal barometer of sorts where what your experience in your daily environment is like, and your body will tell you if something weird is happening. You see people all the time, and you don't see people all the time. So in that brief moment, something weird happened.
Sure.
Did you see a ghost? It would be hard to say without investigating further and trying to recreate that scenario. But something happened that you can't explain, which makes it paranormal. So did you have a paranormal experience? Yeah, for sure. Was it a ghost? That would take further examination,
sure.
I'd say. But it's really cool that, without any prior knowledge, do they have a red bandana on? Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's where things kind of go, okay, now let's put a little gas on this. Let's get to the bottom of this because that makes it really intriguing.
All right, Steve. So you're well known for ghost hunters. You have a book now, A Life with Ghosts. Is there another hobby? I mean, this seems like it's a pretty consuming thing. Like, is there something? Do you ever go out and hit a bucket of balls? I mean, what else do you do when you're not tracking paranormal activity? I'm fascinated.
I do. History, I do like to go to museums and things. I spend a lot of my time still steeped in history. But I tell you what, video games, I play the drums. I like to cook. I spend time with my cat. Friends, movies, all the normal stuff. I find time to.
All right,
just like anybody, just like you need to find time for other things.
Well, of all the careers where balance could easily be lost, yours is one of them. I could see just heading down that road and never turning back. Hey, man, it's a pleasure to speak with you. The book, A Life with Ghosts, is available anywhere anybody wants to find books. Steve, all the best. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. The other day in New York City, the world recognized that Harry actually won the game. And by that, I mean Prince William is in New York City. And he went for a jog in Central Park, and apparently no one recognized him. He had a completely unaccosted, unmolested, unbothered run through the park, a several-mile jaunt with a bodyguard. Not one person looked up and noticed. Prince William, the man who will be king one day. If Harry had shown up in Central Park with a ski mask, people would have been like, "There's Harry.
Yeah.
Where's Meghan?" Oh, poor Willie. Poor guy, the responsible older brother. Nobody cares.
I
kind of
know.
nondescript.
Wouldn't that be, that's what you want. You don't want to be recognized in New York City, for God's sake.
No, you go there. I know, people from around that's the great thing about New York is you go there to disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least for a minute there, he got to enjoy that. Although, he literally got back and was like, Kate, I had the strangest morning. It's as if the city had a policy. Everybody pretend I'm invisible. Oh, jolly good effort. They all did it, that's for sure. But so anyway, in that regard, Harry was for a few hours there kind of like an F-35, kind of like a $100 million fighter jet. Nobody could find him. He was just out and about, much like the plane in South Carolina. We talked about this the other day. An F-35 pilot, a Marine pilot, ejected during what they're calling a mishap during his flight over the weekend in Charleston. And the plane, which is a stealth plane, which had its stealthiness all stealthed up and ready to stealth, really proved its worth because they couldn't find the damn thing for a while. They even thought maybe it was still flying. And eventually they did find some wreckage. And then eventually they found somebody down there, thank God, who was able to share a little insight, shed some light on what happened. And without further ado, this is an entirely real interview. What's this guy's name's up?
Randolph White.
I was in the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a screeching, between a screech and a whistle.
Yes.
And I heard a boom.
Yeah,
and my whole house shook. Did a meteorite come out of space or something? And I said, well, if the airplane, it needed to be reported. That thing was flying just too low. Choppers keep flying around. I said, well, somebody must have robbed the bank or whatever. Just through the grace of God, nobody didn't get hurt. Anything man-made can malfunction. But it needs to be investigated, and the public needs to know what really happened. It could have been a major disaster.
There you go.
Man, that's just, he is about to hit a sermon. Anything man-made can malfunction, but the Lord has given you a soul that there could be nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's just, I'm waiting for the organs and the hand claps.
Can I get an amen?
He was about to go.
Is that really between a scream and a whistle?
My God, he can hit it. And he was, what was he doing?
I was in the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a
taking a shave.
Yeah, taking a shave. Yeah. I love Randolph White.
Shave. I guarantee you, if Joe Perry hears that tour's back up and running in no time. He's going to be like, I don't care about Steven.
Yeah, here are the lyrics. Learn these.
Yeah, that F-35 guy, he can howl. Let's get him. Yeah. That'd be awesome. I just love he describes the sound and then gives you the sound. You know what would be amazing? What if F-35s actually sounded just like that?
Oh my God, they wouldn't even have to fire missiles. That would just send the countryside flying, wouldn't it?
Terrifying.
Yeah, that's
war
over.
Having never been, thankfully, and not trying to be funny at all, in a war zone, like I've been to air shows. You see one plane fly by and it's kind of loud. The idea that, you'd just like multiple planes There can't be anything more terrifying than the sounds of war.
Yeah.
I was at Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina once. My brother was a small town newspaper editor right next to Shaw in Sumter, South Carolina. And we went out to this range and we watched like A-10 Warthogs fire on targets over an open field. Wow. And the planes themselves are loud as hell, but the machine guns they're firing, whatever those things are, it sounded like that God unzipped the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so loud. I still to this day, when I think about it, it makes me shudder. It's just the most mind-bogglingly loud thing.
Yeah, it's like, I forget what they call the gun, and someone's going to text us on the Maple Grove Lock and Safe Talk and text line 65198 Rock. But it's like a major Gatling gun, one of these things. What did Jesse the Body have in Predator? Hit that gun right there, but it's even bigger, and they put it right in the nose of that sucker. Almost brings the plane to a stop when it's firing in the air. That's how powerful it is. These, of course, are armor-piercing rounds. Yeah. That's what they're for, is to fight armor. And I remember when I went out to the National Training Center to train before the Gulf War, I was out there for 3 weeks of desert training, and we get out there in our big tanks and everything. I'm sitting in an M1 Abrams, and we're rocking. I was actually in an APC following an M1 Abrams. By the way, they could stencil nicknames on the back like they would do with the old bombers. Mm-hmm. I was following Gangbang right into battle.
As you do.
Oh, and we had We Will Rock You playing through all of the speakers, through all of the armor. We were unstoppable. No one was stopping us. And we used what was called a miles system. So if you got shot, a yellow light went off or an orange light went off on your armored vehicle and you were done. And it's time to have a smoke and eat your MREs, right? And we're rocking out across the desert, and I'm like, no, we're unstoppable, man. Get out of our way. All of a sudden, the orange light goes off. What? Everybody, all the vehicles just stop. What happened? Whew. 2 A-10s go over.
Oh, boy.
I said, does Iraq have those? They said, no, they don't have those. I was like, thank frickin' God.
Yeah, really?
Those belong to us.
You know what I just realized? The sound our man shared with us, maybe that's not the sound the plane made. Maybe that was the pilot as he was ejecting.
Scared the shave out of him.
That could... Because I promise you, if I'm pulling that lever and blasting through the cockpit of an F-35, that's the sound I'm going to make.
Yeah, no kidding.
Man, that's fantastic.
That reminds me of this is an actual guy, a television reporter going for one of these tandem skydives. Let me see if I can get this queued up. Yeah, this is him screaming as he goes out for a man, tandem skydive. They go out the door. That's pretty dang close to our boy here.
I said, what in the world is this? And I heard a boom.
Man, can you imagine, what this is not the first time that man's made that sound.
Oh, no. He was
He's
just
like, this is my sound.
Yeah, right, Candace? He was waiting for a television camera to show up.
He's going, next time he goes in to take a shave, if he nicks himself. That'd be fantastic. I love that guy.
The KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.